Here we are today, everybody, on a crazy snowy day. You may not be able to see that it's about 4 or 5 inches today. We are looking at A Child's History of the World, Chapter 54, whose title is Tic-Tac-Toe, 3 Kings in a Row. Stop fussing. Okay. Just trying not to lose my sanity, although there's a possibility that's already gone. All right, so here are the 3 kings. We have Richard of England, Philip of France, and Frederick Barbarossa of Germany. If you say their names over several times, they keep ringing through your mind, and you can't seem to stop thinking them whether you want to or not. We're not doing that right now. Please put that up. I need you to pay attention to the words coming out of Mommy's mouth. I know, I'm the meanest mommy ever. Once you graduate from high school, it's all good. Jerusalem was captured, but it did not stay captured very long.
Well, I just kind of want to also start with you.
Well, I kind of want to be able to record and also for you to be able to hear me and pay attention. And that doesn't always occur when you are sitting in my lap. So we are talking about the Crusades. So we've gone through the first crusade. And now, since the Muslims attacked and won Jerusalem back, why not have a second crusade? The Christians started a second crusade. Thereafter, about once in a lifetime during the next 200 years, there was one crusade after another. 8 or 9 in all. Sometimes these later crusades won back Jerusalem for a while, but only for a little while. Sometimes they did not succeed at all. The third crusade took place about 100 years after the first, that is, nearly 1200 AD. These 3 kings, Richard of England, Philip of France, and Frederick Barbarossa, started on the third crusade, but they didn't all finish. I'll tell you about them in 3, 2, 1 order. Frederick's name, Barbarossa, meant red beard, for in those days it was the custom to give kings nicknames that described them. Frederick was in Aix-la-Chapelle, as Charlemagne's had been, but Frederick was king only of Germany. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense because I missed a word. Frederick's capital city, was in Aix-la-Chapelle, as Charlemagne's had been, but Frederick was only king of Germany. When a young man, he had tried to make his country as large and as powerful as the new Roman Empire that Charlemagne had made. But he was not a great enough man, and so unable to do what Charlemagne had done. Uh-oh, there goes the book swinging shut. Frederick was quite old when he started out on the third crusade with the other 2 kings. But he never reached Jerusalem, for in crossing a stream on the way, he was drowned. So much for Frederick, the third king. The second king, Philip of France, was jealous of the first king, Richard, because Richard was so very popular and well liked by the Crusaders. Philip finally gave up the crusade and went back to France. Big surprise there. Please don't touch the bottom of my shoes. Richard of England was then the only king left in the crusade. It would have been better if he, too, had gone back to his country instead of gallivanting off on a crusade. But he thought going on a crusade was a much better sport than staying at home and working over the difficult business of governing his people. You remember in our book of Robin Hood where they talk about King Richard? This is the same King Richard. So King Richard of England is the same King Richard of England for the Robin Hood story. If you keep doing that, it's going to break or it won't stretch to fit your head. It'll be too stretched out and won't stay on your noggin. Richard was kind and gentle, yet strong and brave. Richard the Lion-Hearted, they called him. He was hard on wrongdoers.
Mommy, remember in our history book?
Mm-hmm.
The lion.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He was hard on wrongdoers, but fair and square. People loved him, but they feared him too, for he punished the wicked and those who misbehaved. Sounds a lot like a very good parent, actually. Even Richard's enemies admired him. The Muslim king of Jerusalem at the time of this Third Crusade was named Saladin. Saladin, though being attacked by Richard, admired him very much and even became his friend. So Saladin, instead of fighting Richard, finally made a friendly agreement with him to treat the Holy Sepulchre and the pilgrims properly. As this arrangement was satisfactory to everyone, Richard left Jerusalem to Saladin and started back home. On his way, Richard was captured and put in prison by the son of Frederick Barbarossa and held for a large ransom from England. Richard's friends did not know where he was and did not know how to find him. Now, it so happened that Richard had a famous minstrel named Blondel. Do you remember what a minstrel is? A minstrel, I believe, is somebody who sings songs, would be my guess. Here we go. Blondel had composed a song of which Richard was very fond. When Richard was taken prisoner, Blondel wandered over the countryside, singing everywhere this favorite song in hope that Richard might hear it and reveal where he was. Oh, excuse me. There goes the book again. One day he happened to sing beneath the very tower where Richard was imprisoned. Richard heard him and answered by singing the refrain of this song. His friends then knew where he was. The ransom was paid, and Richard was allowed to go free. When at last Richard did reach England, he still had adventures. This was the time when Robin Hood was robbing travelers. Richard planned to have himself taken prisoner by Robin Hood so that he might capture him and bring him to justice. Richard disguised himself as a monk. Okay, you too. Adelaide, look at my face. Your sister was sitting there first. If you don't like it, you can move. Do I make myself clear? What's the right answer? Thank you.
Mommy,
Yes.
have we read Robin Hood yet?
That's what we've been reading. We haven't read it today. No, is that what you mean? Okay. No, we haven't yet. Okay. But he found Robin Hood such a good fellow after all that he forgave him and his men. Richard's coat of arms was a design of 3 lions, one above the other, and this same design of 3 lions now forms part of the shield of England. After Richard's crusade, there was a 4th crusade, and then in the year 1212, which is an easy date to remember because it is simply the number 12 repeated, 1212, there was a crusade of children only. This was therefore known as the Children's Crusade. It was led by a French boy, about 12 years old, named Stephen, who was named after the first Christian martyr. Children from all over France left their homes and their mothers and fathers It seems strange to us that their mothers and fathers let them start off on such a trip and march south to the Mediterranean Sea. Here they expected the waters of the sea would part and allow them to march on dry land to Jerusalem, as they had read in the Bible the waters of the Red Sea had done to allow the Israelites to leave Egypt. But the waters did not part. Some sailors, however, offered to take the children to Jerusalem in their ships. They said they would do it for nothing, just for the love of the Lord. But it turned out that these sailors were really pirates. And as soon as they got the children on board their ship, they steered them straight into the very land of the enemy, the Muslims. Here it is said the pirates sold the children as slaves. This is not a Grimm's fairy tale, and the pirates were not trapped by the children, so I cannot make a happy ending, for it was not. The last, or 8th crusade, was led by a king of France called Louis. He was so pious and so devoted to the Lord that he was made a saint, and ever after has been called St. Louis. Now, we talked about that this morning in the other book, remember? Yet the crusade failed, and ever since that time, Jerusalem was ruled by Muslims until, in 1918, it was captured by the English, who kept it until 1948, when the State of Israel was established. Now both Israeli Jews and Palestinians, Muslims and Christians, want control of the holy city. It is very sad that this city that is so sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims is always the center of a war. Not all the crusaders were good Christians. Like some people nowadays, a great many were Christians only in name. In fact, though strange to say, quite a number of crusaders were nothing but scalawags, looking for excitement and adventure, and they went on a crusade merely as an excuse to rob and plunder. The Crusades did not succeed in their objective, which was to keep Jerusalem for the Christians. In spite of that, the Crusades did a great deal of good. When the Crusades first started, the Crusaders were not nearly as civilized as the people they went to conquer. But travel sometimes teaches people more than books, and it taught the Crusaders. They learned the customs of the other lands through which they went. They learned languages and literature. They learned history and art. There were no then public schools. Only a very few people had any education at all. The Crusades did what schools might have done. They taught the people of Europe and opened up to them a whole new world of culture and knowledge. All right, well, that is the long and short and the skinny of the Crusades. Didn't succeed, but a lot of good still came out of it. That's all I got for right now. Ta-ta. Bye.